Hello fellow classmates, my name is John Scheller.
I'm Augie Walters.
I'm Jack Benon.
I'm Arjun Nair.
And today we'll be presenting on fossil fuels. As the world population continues to grow, the production of energy from fossil fuels is also expected to increase. However, the amount of fossil fuels that can be used is also diminishing, making it extremely difficult for mankind to meet this energy demand. We must look towards renewable energy resources like geothermal power or solar power in order to overcome a scenario in which we run out of fossil fuels. In addition, when we use fuels to produce electricity or power our cars, we are also releasing toxic substances into the atmosphere, which contributes to the greenhouse effect. And as the graph shows up here, this shows the annual prevented deaths of using more renewable energy sources than fossil fuels. Next slide.
The first contention that our group has come up with is that coal and oil are very harmful fossil fuels that negatively impact the planet and the world's population. In addition to the harm from the results of these burning fossil fuels, there is also damage to the planet when these resources are taken out of the ground, from increased pollution to contamination of water sources from methods like fracking. And fossil fuels are not replaceable. So once they are burned, they are not available to create energy in the future. In the United States, there has been a push to renewable fuels, but the country is still largely dependent on fossil fuels. In China, where growth in use of the fossil fuels has been much more drastic than the country has developed, there are many pollution problems that are so severe that hundreds of thousands of citizens are dying every year from the poor air quality. But because the country feels the need to grow and keep more and more, the fossil fuels are being used and the problem is getting worse every day. And as you can see, that is how much carbon dioxide is being released for coal, oil, and gas each year for fossil fuels.
Okay. The second contention that our group has come up with is that the use of fossil fuels negatively impacts humans. An example of this is two schoolgirls walking to school in New Delhi, India. The air pollution is so bad there that they have to cover their mouths just so that they don't get sick. So when examining the ethical perspective of this vast problem, we see that people are dying as a direct result of air pollution, which is caused by the burning of fossil fuels. So oil is one of the largest contributing factors in air pollution because it's the largest source of energy in the world. Oil can be used for gasoline, which can fuel automobiles. It can also be used to create energy or create plastics or silicons. As these uses continue, air pollution exceeds epidemic proportions. According to NASA, a government agency of the United States, every year 60 million people die from air pollution as a direct result of the excessive burning of oil. As one can infer, countries with extreme population densities are susceptible to the impacts of air pollution. In an article on air pollution in India in the New York Times, quote, air pollution levels are nearly 30 times what the World Health Organization considers safe, or the equivalent of smoking more than 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So actions must be taken to prevent further harm to human health.
So we need solutions to these problems. So our group has come up with two main solutions: natural gas and renewable resources. Next slide. The first solution we will make is natural gas. Now, natural gas is also a fossil fuel, but it is much healthier. According to the EIA, a credible government organization, oil emits 228.6 pounds of CO2, and coal emits 205 pounds of CO2. However, natural gas only emits 117. We could be saving lives because, as we stated in our first slides, the amount of people that were saved from these solutions, we can actually be saving these lives. This would be very beneficial to the environment, since Jennifer Chu, a researcher for MIT, states that there are 200,000 deaths each year from CO2 emissions. By implementing natural gas as a solution, we can help reduce this number drastically. Also, natural gas will be really easy to implement already. As you can see by this graph, this is the amount of consumption of each fossil fuel in the United States. As you can see here, natural gas has been growing, and it's actually exceeded oil in its use. So it wouldn't be very hard to implement this solution, because we already have used this. And also, it would be environmentally sound, as there are less emissions from natural gas than there are from oil and coal. And it would be ethically right, as my partner stated, Jack, who stated that these pollutions cause a ton of deaths each year, and so we could be preventing these deaths.
Next slide. So our next proposed solution is sticking to renewable energy resources. As Americans, we are accustomed to using fossil fuels as our central source of energy needs. According to the Union of Concerned Scientists, a notable nonprofit science advocacy organization based in the United States, renewable energy is a practical, affordable solution to our electricity needs. By ramping up renewable energy, we can reduce our air pollution, cut global warming emissions, create new jobs and industries, diversify our power supply, and move America toward a cleaner, healthier energy future. This statement alone shows the potential renewable energy sources can have on our future. The first way we can move to a more renewable energy source is solar power. According to Conserve Energy Future, CEF, the heat of the sun is about equivalent to burning 1 billion trillion tons of coal an hour. Even though only a small fraction of that heat ever reaches Earth, it is still more than enough to power the whole world. Solar energy is one of the alternative energies that is used most widely across the globe. According to the National Geographic, about 70% of the sunlight gets reflected back into space, and you'll have only 30% of sunlight to meet up our energy demands. A few pros of this solution is that it is abundant, renewable, requires low maintenance, and is financially supported by the government. However, it is quite expensive, requires quite a bit of space, and the sun can be intermittent or sporadic at times. The second way we can move to a more renewable energy source is wind energy. In addition, wind energy is a renewable source of energy and reduces our reliance on foreign countries for supply of oil and gas. It does not cause any air pollution and have created several jobs in the past few decades. The third way we can move to a more renewable energy source is geothermal. Geothermal energy produces no pollution and therefore reduces our reliance on fossil fuels. It also results in significant cost savings as no fuel is required to harness energy from beneath the earth. These advantages make the geothermal energy as one of the best alternative energy sources. But geothermal has its downsides too. It is suitable to a particular region and cannot be harnessed everywhere. Also, the areas where this energy is harnessed are prone to earthquakes and volcanoes. Apart from that, setting up of a geothermal power station requires huge installation costs, which is a huge factor to keep in mind. Next slide.
So with these solutions come many limitations and implications that we have developed when we are trying to replace coal and oil for a different energy production. First off, while it seems obvious and easy to replace oil with natural gas or another renewable resource, the complete removal of oil would have a damaging impact on our society and economy. This is because so much of the nation's infrastructure is based on oil, from all the gas stations that are located throughout the country to the pipelines that carry oil around the country, from where it is pumped to where the gas line is produced. However, it is time to start researching alternatives to oil and ways to implement them. Getting rid of the use of oil will force us to rely on other energy sources that are not as reliable, like solar, or plentiful, like natural gas as oil, but both of which would have impacts on the United States energy availability and cost. As for renewable resources, they have limits also, because they are not as effective as fossil fuels, because they are not as reliable or inexpensive. However, they do start to get used in larger amounts, and they will help with global warming problems, and eventually their cost will go down.
So renewable energy sources seem like an easy and clean solution to the problems that we're currently having with fossil fuels. And renewable energy sources like solar and wind power are often projected as profitable and successful businesses. However, renewable energy sources are still developing. According to Bloomberg, quote, even in 2040, even if everyone does everything they promised at the Paris Climate Summit, the world will get just 2.4% of its energy from solar and wind. This shows how renewable energy is unproductive and how if we implement it right now, it might not do much. So I propose that society continues to use fossil fuels, but only to further develop and research for clean renewable energy sources.
To conclude, the best solution is probably going to be renewable resources. They are very healthy and we can save tons of lives. As John stated in our first slide, the amount of lives saved from using renewable resources is a ton. And so by implementing all these solutions and renewable resource being the best, we can help society move further.
Bam!